Hi, I'm Johnny. Pleased to meet you. I thought, since there's so many wonderful people doing an excellent job online of promoting the Scots language as a language, I thought I'd give my tuppence worth on YouTube, since you all really need that, and talk about my experience of growing up a Scots speaker in the northeast of Scotland, um, which I speak Scots. Specifically, I speak Doric Scots, which I've spoken all my life. It's how I speak with my mum and my dad. And I find it quite difficult to talk in Scots with people who aren't Scots speakers or just in a Scots speaking environment like my hometown, because I instantly default to talking back in English because I've got so much practice of it now. I've lived out of the Northeast Point for about 8 years, and as a result, I find it quite tricky sometimes to speak Scots to people who aren't accustomed to hearing people speak Scots. So I'm going to shift registers now into Scots and let you hear what a native Doric Scots speaker sounds like, so you have that experience. And meanwhile, I'll wax lyrically about how it was to grow up a Scots speaker in the North East. And aside that, and you'll hate to excuse my shouting about because it's Guy Carl in my room and I'm jeelt to the bean. My hands are absolutely jeelt. So I'll be shouting a bit to keep warm because the heaters are the way over there and I'm the way over here and I'm frozen. So this is fit like I speak when I'm at home with my mother and my father. I speak Doric specifically, but Scots. Doric is a Scots. Sign is Scots is a family o' like Leeds, I would say. I didn't quite take the notion that Doric isn't Scots, seeing as, I understand anything a Scots speaker says. And not just that, but I think it's the history of the Lead shows that Doric is probably the best preserved version of our Lead. It's the most historic version of it, which is why we use some words that other bits of Scots deny use anymore and might be considered a bit archaic. But like I says, this is why I speak with my mother and my father, and I eat with my pals, and I can get away with it. And I bide in Dundee now. I've been here for 8 years. I moved here for uni, mostly, but because I wanted to move to Dundee and if I can help it, this is why I speak to native Dundonians. If I can tell they speak Ori, the Dundonian dialect of Scots, this is why I'll speak to them, and I can get away with it, and they can understand me, which they usually can. It takes a minute for them to adjust registers to hear me, because they might be expecting me to speak English or Ori till them. But when I speak Doric till them, they're usually okay with it. But the main thing is that it's awful hard for me to speak till an Anglophone in Scots for a couple of reasons. A couple of really great reasons. The first thing is that in school, woe them days. But if it was, in school, you're taught that you speak at home isn't a lead, you speak bad English. And it's a symptom of being rural and ill-educated and stupid. And that to get on in life, you ought to be speaking like fit they sound like down south. That's how you get on in life. And fit you speak is actually just really, really bad English, even though Anglophones can't understand you half the time, which is sad, and it's sick a thin veneer to see through. And I'm sad that more folk didn't see through it sign. But what I notice is that with my mother's generation and my grandmother's generation and a few generations back, they were all taught the same thing. They were all taught that what they speak isn't a lead at all, and is instead an awful bad version of English. So bad that they're stupid for speaking it. And the second bit was that I thought I was a bit of chick in school. So if I was at my night time when I was wee, I was about 10-year-old or something, and the teacher says to us, "Here, Johnny," she said, "So, Johnny, what do you have in your packed lunchbox?" And I said, "I didn't ken, my mum put it together." I got a punishment exercise for that at the age of 10 for giving my teacher cheek. And the cheeky part wasn't that I said I don't know what's in my packed lunchbox because my mum made it. The cheeky part was that I've fallen out of the Scots Register again. There we go. The cheeky bit was that I had replied in Scots. So if a teacher were to say to you, "Here, Lauren," and Lauren would go, "Fit," that would be cheeky. But if the teacher was to say, "Lauren," and Lauren was to reply, "What?" that wouldn't have been chick. The difference is that Lauren replied in English the second time, and replying in our English isn't considered chick. Another bit about this, growing up like this, is speaking Scots. The bit I find most tricky nowadays, the reason I keep fanning out the registers, because this is going to a general audience, most of them being Anglophones. I find it awful hard to speak my own lead around Anglophones because you catch flack. You get a heap of flack for speaking Scots because English folk can understand bits and pieces out of the lead. They can understand most of the words. There's a decent heap of mutual intelligibility between the two leads. Even with Doric, and I mean I'm speaking a fairly standard register of Doric, AFA, ilk, o standard Scots, right? Lowland Scots. So it's fairly intelligible, and as a result, English folk tend to think you speak, like the teachers tell you, a really bad version of that. Even Anglophones for the south of Scotland, say, or even the Ains for Aberdeen, think you just speak bad English, and they'll tell you off. They'll tell you off. A grown adult will tell you off. You'll be told off by a grown adult, is what I'm getting at. Which is some chick, by the way. It's some impudence. But the bit that gets me is like they think that you just, by the age of nearly 27, haven't grasped the way to speak English yet. And that they, in the space of 30 seconds, might teach you the right way to speak English. Like, that kind of cognitive dissonance is bananas, by the way, that they think in their own heads that within 30 seconds they can get you speaking the right way. But what I find most interesting about English is that in the south east of England, round about the home counties, and some of the more pucker bits of London, nae estuary English is what I'm getting at. Folk in that bit of the world tend to think of themselves as nae haeing an accent. They dinna hae an accent, because that's what everybody else that speaks their lead is supposed to sound like. That is Anglocentrism, and it's a huge bit of cognitive dissonance that folk dinna spot it, frankly. Folk should notice that folk are saying, here in this corner of England we speak the right way, and everybody else speaks wrong. That's nae on, and it's also wrong in itself. It shows far the centre of power lies. The same's true in the Netherlands. In North Holland, folk think of themselves as speaking echt Nederlands, proper Dutch, and everywhere else they speak a bad ilk of the same. But it shows you for the seat of power in the Netherlands is. In the same way France, Parisian folk think of themselves as speaking proper French in Paris, and they correct everybody else for speaking something different, or soon and slightly different, because that's for the seat of power in France is. So it's about politics and power, rather than being actually about folk nae kenning how to speak their own lead properly, because I mean I think I've messed up it being 27 and speaking it every day since the day I was born. But on top of that, I think I've got this cringe in me to think that because of my kind of teaching and because of the kind of overall background of speaking a minority lead in a really Anglo-centric country, for the centre of power is far down south for folks speaking half a pucker version of English and think of themselves as nae haeing an accent and everybody else just speaking wrong. I've got this cringe. I find it awful hard to speak Scots around folk that dinna themselves speak Scots all the time. And I often find myself fanning out the register of it. And I was out feared, actually. This is funny. I thought I was out feared. I thought I was losing my accent and my lead a bit. And then I heard a recording of myself a couple of months back and thought, oh, you fucker, fuzz that chuchter. And then saw the video and it was me speaking. And I was like, oh, okay, it's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. But you've seen a monologue of me speaking Doric Scots, a fairly standard register route. I did speak about being Guy Gielt as opposed to Afa Carl, which is more Scots, which is more Doric than it is standard Scots, because dialects exist even in Scots, because Scots isn't a dialect, it's its own lead. So, yeah, you've gotten to hear me prattle awa in Scots plenty, in Doric plenty, and speak about my upbringing of the lead, and hear fit why I speak with my mother and my father. And I hope this has been at least interesting to you, and might have been a decent introduction to the lead if you've never heard somebody hear a monologue in the Scots lead afore. And hopefully you've learnt a wee bit about the lead and understood a fair bit if you speak English. But aye, that's me coming up for 10 minutes in this video now. I think I'll cut quits, but if you liked it, let me know in the comments. Give it a wee like maybe. and see who we go with this. If it takes off on it, we'll see about upping the production value a bit, and making some interesting tutorial videos, or speaking about actually the commonalities between Northeast Scots, Doric, and Dutch. There's some really interesting commonalities there that I found out through starting to learn Dutch. So, enjoy yourselves, guys. Take care, all the best, and cheerio for now.